Daniel sat on the edge of a broken transport crate, staring at the dusty horizon. His boots were worn, his bag was nearly empty, and his credit chip showed almost nothing. Life in the outer colonies was never easy, but for a human drifting alone among alien worlds, it was even harder. He had worked small jobs before, fixing machines, carrying goods, or guarding travelers, but nothing lasted. Now he was hungry, tired, and desperate for a chance, any chance. When the alien approached, Daniel almost ignored him. The figure was tall, wrapped in a cloak of woven silver threads. His skin carried a pale glow, like moonlight trapped in flesh. The alien's eyes were deep and unreadable, but his smile was calm. "You are human," the alien said in a low voice. "Then you are exactly what our village needs." Daniel blinked, confused. "What kind of work are you talking about?" The alien did not answer directly, only motioned for Daniel to follow. Something in his tone felt both inviting and unsettling. Daniel hesitated, but hunger pressed him forward. The path led them through a narrow canyon where strange symbols glowed faintly on the rocks. Bird-like creatures screeched overhead. While the air grew cooler, soon the canyon opened into a valley. Hidden from the main trade routes, there stood the alien village, small houses of crystal and clay, lights flickering warmly inside. Children with shining eyes ran between gardens, and adults worked quietly, always pausing to glance at Daniel as he entered. It looked peaceful, but Daniel felt the weight of their stares. Why were they looking at him like that, with such quiet expectation? The cloaked alien guided him to a round hall at the center. Inside, soft music hummed, and several villagers sat in a circle, waiting. "This human is the one," the cloaked alien announced, his voice echoing in the chamber. Murmurs spread through the villagers, some hopeful, some anxious. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "Hold on, what is this job you keep talking about?" "I only came for work, not some ceremony." An elder with silver blue skin leaned forward. "Human, we offer you shelter, food, and respect if you accept our task." Daniel narrowed his eyes. "And what is the task?" The elder's gaze lingered, almost too long, before he finally said, "You will learn in time. Tomorrow you begin." Daniel's heart pounded. Why wouldn't they tell him directly? The villagers smiled softly, but their eyes held secrets. A woman brought him a bowl of glowing fruit. Another handed him fresh clothes, as if welcoming him as family, yet no one explained what his real duty was. That night, he was shown to a small home already prepared for him. A bed was made, tools were placed neatly on the table, and even a lamp of warm firelight flickered in the corner. It was too perfect, as if they had expected him all along, lying awake. Daniel listened to the quiet hum of the alien night. Whispers drifted through the window, villagers speaking in low tones, their words almost fearful, almost desperate. He caught one sentence just before the voices faded. "Tomorrow he begins the most important task." Daniel's stomach tightened. What kind of job was this? Why did they look at him like a savior, but speak about him like a tool? He wanted to walk away, but something inside told him that leaving might not be so easy anymore. The next morning, the village bells rang, echoing against the canyon walls. Children pointed at him, smiling as if a festival had begun. Women whispered behind their hands, watching his every move. The elder approached once again, his expression serious but kind. "Human Daniel," he said slowly, "you must prepare. Today you begin your duty, and you must not fail." Daniel's mouth felt dry. But what is this duty? The elder only gave a thin smile. "You will understand soon enough." Suspense pressed against Daniel's chest. He had come looking for a simple job. Maybe farming, maybe repairing machines. Instead, he was standing in the center of a village that looked at him like he was the key to their survival. His fate was already written in their eyes, though he had no idea why. And as the villagers began to gather, surrounding him in silence, Daniel realized whatever this job was, it would change everything. Daniel woke to the soft sound of singing. Alien voices floated through the morning air, sweet and light, almost like wind moving across glass. He rubbed his eyes and stepped outside the small house that had been given to him. The village was alive now, with colors brighter than he remembered from the night before. Children chased each other through the gardens, their laughter echoing, while women carried baskets of glowing fruits and jars of water. Everyone smiled as they passed him, bowing slightly, like he was someone important. It unsettled him. Why were they treating him with such respect? When he had only arrived yesterday, he had been a drifter, a worker desperate for coins, yet here, he was welcomed like a guest of honor. The elder's words from last night still echoed in his mind. Today you begin your duty. As Daniel walked through the village, he noticed details he had missed before. The houses were made of clay and crystal, shaped almost like shells, each one glowing softly with inner light. Strange vines wrapped around the buildings, pulsing with a faint rhythm like a heartbeat. Everywhere he turned, murals decorated the wall, scenes of humans standing beside aliens, surrounded by families and children. In one carving, a human man stood holding the hand of an alien woman, and behind them were several hybrid children with shining eyes. Daniel stared at it too long, his stomach tightening. Why were humans carved into their history? A young alien girl approached him. Her skin shimmered faint blue, and her eyes were large and bright. She held a basket of fruit and smiled warmly. "For you, human," she said. Pressing one of the glowing fruits into his hand, Daniel hesitated, but hunger won again. He bit into it, and sweet liquid rushed down his throat, refreshing him more than water ever had. The girl giggled and ran back into the crowd, whispering something to her friends who stared at him with wide eyes. The villagers were kind, but it felt unnatural. Their smiles seemed too constant, their eyes too hopeful, as if they expected him to solve something. He wasn't a hero, he wasn't even special. Yet they looked at him as though he was already chosen. Later, the cloaked alien who had first brought him here appeared again. "You walk among them, do you see their joy?" the alien asked softly. Daniel frowned. "Yes, but I don't understand. Why are they all treating me like this? What job do you actually want from me?" The cloaked alien did not answer directly. His glowing eyes only studied Daniel. "All will be revealed, but for now, know this, they smile because you bring hope." Daniel clenched his fists. "Hope for what? I came here for work, not whatever this is." The alien tilted his head. "Work can mean many things, human, and sometimes the greatest work is not with hands, but with life itself." The words sent a chill through Daniel's body. He wanted to ask more, but the alien walked away, disappearing into the crowd. That evening, the villagers prepared a small feast in his honor. Fires were lit in the central hall, and the air filled with the smell of roasted roots and sweet fruits. Music played from strange instruments shaped like spirals, producing soft hums and deep echoes. The villagers danced, their movements slow and graceful, like flowing water. Daniel was given the best seat, right beside the elder, who kept watching him with calm but piercing eyes. At one point, an older woman leaned toward him and whispered, "We waited so long for you, human." Daniel stiffened. "Waited? How could you know I was coming?" The woman only smiled, her face full of peace. "The ancestors spoke. The prophecy guided us. One would come to give us a future." Daniel felt trapped. These people believed he was part of some destiny, something he had never agreed to. Every smile, every bow, every whispered word made him feel less like a guest and more like a prisoner of expectations. When the feast ended, the elder stood and raised his hands, silence falling instantly. He looked at Daniel, his voice steady and strong. "Tomorrow, the truth of your duty will be revealed. Tonight, rest well, for your role is greater than you imagine." Daniel's heart thudded painfully in his chest. The villagers cheered softly, their smiles glowing in the firelight, but he felt no comfort. In them, it was as if the entire village carried one secret, and he was the last one to understand it. He walked back to his house under the pale moons, their silver light washing over the crystal roofs. In the quiet of his room, He lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the murals of humans and aliens together. Burned in his memory, the smiles of the villagers echoed in his mind, and the elder's words haunted him. Tomorrow, the truth will be revealed. The morning sun rose slowly over the alien valley, spilling silver light across the village. Daniel woke early, though he had barely slept all night. The elder's words echoed in his head. Tomorrow, the truth will be revealed. Now that tomorrow had come, his chest felt heavy, like he was walking toward a fate he had not chosen. Outside, the village was quiet, almost too quiet. The children who had laughed and played yesterday now watched him in silence, their glowing eyes wide. The women carried no baskets of fruit today, and the men stood still in the streets, their smiles thinner, as though waiting for a ceremony to begin. Daniel swallowed hard, his throat dry. Something was about to happen, and everyone knew except him. The cloaked alien appeared once more, silent as ever. He gestured for Daniel to follow, his long fingers curling like branches. Daniel wanted to refuse, to demand answers, but he forced his legs to move. He had no weapons, no allies, and no clear path out of the valley. For now, all he could do was obey. They walked to the great round hall, the same place where Daniel had first been welcomed. But this time, the chamber was filled with more villagers, packed shoulder to shoulder, their faces glowing in the dim crystal light. In the center stood the elder, tall and calm, his silver-blue skin shining. When Daniel entered, the crowd bowed, the sound of rustling robes filling the room. The elder raised his hand, and silence fell. "Human Daniel," he began, his voice carrying deep weight, "you have come to us in our time of need, and the task chosen for you is unlike any other." Daniel clenched his fists. "What is this task? Tell me the truth already." The elder's glowing eyes softened, but his words struck like thunder. "Our people cannot survive much longer. Our bloodline weakens. Our children are too few. Our future fades." He pointed toward Daniel. "But you, human, carry the strength we need. The gift of renewal, the seed of survival." Daniel froze, his mind refusing to understand. "What are you saying?" he muttered, his voice shaking. The elder's answer was clear, slow, impossible to mishear. "Your duty is to help us create new life, to join with our women, and give us children who will carry both our blood and yours. That is the work only you can do." A shiver ran down Daniel's spine. He stepped back, shaking his head. No, that can't be real. You brought me here for this." "For," his words caught in his throat, anger mixing with disbelief, "you want me to make babies? That's the job?" The crowd murmured, some nodding, others whispering prayers. To them, it was sacred. Not shameful, but to Daniel, it felt like a trap, a nightmare disguised as honor. He raised his voice. "I didn't agree to this. I came here for work, for food, not to become some breeding tool for your people." A young woman stepped forward from the crowd, her skin shimmering pale lavender, her eyes wide but hopeful. She bowed low before him, her voice trembling. "Please, human, we have waited so long. Without you, our children will vanish. Our homes will be empty. We will die." Her words pierced him like knives. The villagers were desperate, and they truly believed he was their answer. But Daniel's heart rebelled. He wasn't ready for this. He wasn't even sure if it was possible. He was just one man, lost and broken. How could he carry the future of an entire species? The elder's gaze hardened. "This is not slavery, human. It is destiny. Your presence here is no accident. The ancestors chose you." Daniel's voice cracked. "Destiny? I don't believe in destiny. I believe in choice. And I never chose this." A ripple of unease spread through the crowd. Some villagers lowered their eyes in sadness. Others frowned in disappointment. But no one moved closer. No one tried to touch him. Instead, they simply stared, waiting for him to give in. Daniel's mind raced. Escape, he thought. Maybe I can still escape. But when he glanced toward the doors, he saw two guards standing there, tall and strong, with spears that glowed faintly at the tips. The exits were sealed, and the valley itself was surrounded by strange energy barriers. There was no easy way out. The elder stepped closer, his voice lower now, almost a whisper. "You are afraid, I understand. But fear is the first step before acceptance. And in time, you will see this as an honor, not a burden." Daniel stared back at him, fire burning in his chest. "No, this isn't honor. This is a cage." Silence stretched through the chamber. The villagers shifted uneasily, the elder's face unreadable. Daniel's heart pounded, his fists clenched, every part of him screaming to resist, but deep down, another thought haunted him. What if they didn't give him a choice at all? The elder finally spoke again, his words heavy with finality. "Rest tonight, human. Tomorrow your first task begins." The villagers bowed once more. As though the decision had already been made, Daniel stood frozen, his body trembling, his mind drowning in fear and rage. The truth had been revealed at last, but it was worse than anything he had imagined. And as the crowd slowly parted, leaving him alone in the center of the hall, Daniel knew his life was no longer his own. Daniel did not sleep that night. He sat on the edge of the bed in the small house they had given him, staring at the flickering lamp until the oil ran low. Every word from the elder echoed in his mind. "Tomorrow your first task begins." Wanted to scream, to run, to fight. But the walls of the village pressed around him like a trap. When the morning bells rang, Daniel stepped outside, his jaw tight. The villagers greeted him with the same warm smiles, but he noticed something different now. Behind those smiles lay hunger, not for food, but for survival. They watched him like he was not a man, but a vessel, and that made his skin crawl. He tried to walk toward the edge of the valley, hoping to find a path out, but when he reached the border, he saw it again, the shimmering barrier that rippled like liquid glass. Stretching high into the sky, 2 alien guards stood beside it, their glowing spears in hand, their eyes sharp. Daniel tested the barrier by tossing a stone, and it vanished in a flash of blue light. His heart sank. Escape was impossible, at least for now. As he turned back, a group of young alien women stood nearby, whispering to one another. Their eyes lingered on him with shy curiosity, their voices hushed but urgent. One of them, tall, with skin the color of soft rose and hair like flowing silver threads, stepped closer. Her voice was gentle. "Human, do not fear us. We only wish to know you." Daniel stiffened. "Know me? You mean use me?" The woman flinched, but did not leave. "We are not your enemies, Daniel. We only want our children to live. Without you, they cannot." Her eyes held no malice, only quiet sadness, and that unsettled him more than anger would have. He walked away, muttering under his breath, but her words clung to him. They were not lying, not pretending. They truly believed he was their only hope, and that truth weighed heavy on his chest. Later that day, he found himself near the village gardens, where rows of glowing plants grew under the strange twin suns. Children played there, laughing and running, their small voices carrying joy into the air. One of the children tugged at his sleeve, handing him a small flower that pulsed faintly with light. "Thank you for saving us," the child said simply, before running back to join the others. Daniel froze, the flower trembling in his hand. Save them, he thought bitterly. He hadn't saved anyone, not yet. But to them, his presence was already salvation. That evening, the cloaked alien appeared again. Silent as always, Daniel clenched his fists. "You tricked me. You said it was work, but this is madness." The alien's glowing eyes studied him, calm and unreadable. "Madness or destiny, human?" "Perhaps they are the same." Daniel's voice rose. "I won't do it. I won't become your tool." The alien tilted his head. "You will find resistance weakens when faced with truth. In time you may see this as more than duty, perhaps even as belonging." The words angered him, but they also cut deep. Belonging, that was something he had never truly felt. Not even among his own kind. The thought gnawed at him as he walked back to his house. Night fell, And Daniel tried to plan escape. If he could distract the guards, maybe break through the barrier, maybe steal supplies and run. But every path he imagined ended in capture, or worse, the valley was sealed too tightly, the people too watchful. Then there was a soft knock on his door. When he opened it, the same silver-haired woman from before stood there, holding a small lantern, her eyes lowered, her voice trembling. "I should not be here, but I wanted to speak with you." Daniel frowned. "Why?" She looked up at him, sadness in her gaze. "Because I do not want you to see us only as captors, Daniel. We are people too, with fear, with dreams, with hope." For a moment, the anger in his chest softened. He saw not an alien demanding his service, but a woman desperate for her people's survival. She whispered, "They call me Sarai, and I do not wish to force you. I only wish for you to understand, if you leave us, our children will vanish into silence." Daniel turned away, his fists tight. "You don't understand. I never asked for this. I never wanted to be your answer." Sarai stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper. "Sometimes answers are not chosen, they are given." He closed his eyes, fighting the storm inside him. Her presence stirred something dangerous in his chest, a mix of pity, anger, and a strange pull he did not want to admit. When she finally left, her lantern light fading into the night, Daniel sat alone in the dark, trembling. The temptation was real, the resistance still strong, and deep down, he knew the struggle had only just begun. The next morning, Daniel walked through the village with heavy steps. The people still smiled at him, but he noticed the cracks in those smiles now. Behind every bow, every soft word, was fear. Fear of a future slipping away. Fear that their species might vanish. Daniel wanted to hate them for dragging him into this, but something inside told him there was more. The way Siri had looked at him last night, not with demand but with sadness, it lingered in his mind. Why did she risk sneaking into his home? What truth was she trying to share? He decided he needed answers, real answers, not the elders' half-truths or the cloaked aliens' riddles. So Daniel began asking questions, moving carefully from one villager to another. Most avoided the subject, bowing politely, saying only, "The elder will guide you." But one old man, his skin cracked with age and his eyes dim, finally whispered, "If you want truth, go to the archives." The archives, Daniel soon learned, were hidden beneath the round hall. At night, when the village slept, he slipped inside, careful not to wake the guards. The crystal torches glowed faintly, leading him down a spiral path carved deep into the earth. The air grew colder, the silence heavy. There, in a chamber lined with stone tablets and glowing scrolls, Daniel found the records. He brushed dust from one slab and froze. It showed carvings of humans, men and women standing beside aliens, raising children that bore features of both. The hybrids smiled, their eyes bright, their bodies strong. His heart pounded as he read the words inscribed beneath. "In ages past, when our blood grew weak, the humans came. They shared with us their gift of life, and together we survived." Daniel staggered back, his mind racing. This wasn't the first time. Humans had been here before, not just visitors but saviors. The prophecy the villagers spoke of wasn't just superstition. It was history repeating itself. He turned another scroll and read more. The record spoke of wars, plagues, and the slow decline of the alien race. When they had stood on the edge of extinction, humans had stepped in, helping them rebuild not just homes, but families. The hybrids born from that union were said to be stronger, able to endure disease and hardship. But over centuries, those bloodlines faded, leaving the village once again desperate for help. Daniel's chest tightened. He had thought this was madness, some cruel trick. But the truth was worse. It was real. It had already happened, and now it was happening again. As he read further, he discovered something else, something that made his stomach twist. Not every human had come willingly. Some had resisted, some had fought. But the records told of how they were eventually bound to the village through ritual, through belief, through necessity. Yet others had stayed willingly, building bonds that were remembered for generations. One human was even praised as a great father of the people, his name carved in stone, his children leading villages long after he was gone. Daniel clenched his fists. This was not just about survival. It was about destiny shaped by desperation. They didn't just want him, they needed him, and maybe, just maybe, they had been waiting for him all along. The sound of footsteps echoed through the chamber. Daniel spun around, his heart racing. It was Sarai, carrying a lantern, her silver hair glowing in the dim light. Her eyes met his, full of sadness. "I knew you would find the archives," she whispered. "And now you understand." Daniel's voice shook. "Understand what? That you've done this before. That you've used my people like tools." Like, Sarai shook her head, stepping closer. "Not tools, Daniel. Partners, protectors. Without your kind, we would have vanished centuries ago. We honor them as family, as saviors." Her words clashed with his anger. He wanted to reject it, to call it lies, but the carvings around him spoke louder than any denial. She reached out, her hand trembling. "I did not want you to learn this truth in fear, but in hope. We do not wish to chain you, we wish for you to choose." Daniel's breath came heavy, his mind torn. The truth of the past weighed on him. But his own freedom burned in his chest. If he accepted, he would not just be a worker, but a father to a people not his own. If he refused, he risked being their enemy, or worse, their prisoner. Sarai's voice broke through his storm of thoughts. Soft and desperate. "You are not here by accident, Daniel. You are part of something greater than yourself. The ancestors guided you. Even if you don't believe in destiny, we believe." Daniel stared at her, his jaw tight, his heart heavy. The deeper truth was clear now, and it frightened him more than the unknown ever had. He was not the first human to face this choice, but he might be the last. Daniel stood in the archives long after Sarai's lantern light faded. The carvings of humans and aliens together seemed to stare back at him, whispering of choices made centuries ago. His hands shook as he touched the stone, tracing the image of a man holding hybrid children. That man had once been like him, a drifter, a stranger, forced into a role larger than himself. Now Daniel felt the weight of those same expectations pressing down on his chest. When he finally returned to the village above, dawn had already broken. The villagers greeted him with their smiles, but now those smiles looked different to him. Not masks, not traps, but desperate prayers. Every bow, every glance carried a message. "Please save us." Daniel could not shake the feeling of being torn in half. One half wanted to run, to fight, to break free of the invisible chains binding him here. The other half whispered of duty, of history, of people who had already trusted him with their survival. He walked the narrow streets like a ghost caught between two worlds. That afternoon, Sarai came to him again. She carried a bowl of fruit, but her eyes held only worry. "You have not spoken since you saw the archives," she said softly. "Tell me what weighs on you." Daniel laughed bitterly. "What weighs on me?" "The fact that your people expect me to carry the future of an entire species. The fact that you don't see me as a man, only as a tool." Sarai flinched, but did not turn away. "We see you as more than a tool, Daniel. We see you as hope, as bridge, as family." Her words cut deep, because they did not sound like lies. He wanted to push her away, but part of him wanted to believe her. They walked together to the edge of the valley, where the barrier shimmered like liquid glass. Daniel pressed his hand against it, the energy stinging his skin. "Do you see this?" he asked bitterly. "This is not freedom, this is a cage. No matter how much you smile at me." Sarai lowered her gaze. "It is protection, not prison. Outside there are dangers you cannot see, but I know what it feels like to live behind walls and still long for freedom." Her honesty unsettled him. He had expected excuses, not empathy. For the first time, he saw her not as part of the crowd, but as a person caught between loyalty to her people and compassion for him. That night, The elders summoned him to the great hall once more. The chamber glowed with crystal light, filled with villagers standing in silence. The elder's voice was steady. "Human Daniel, we have given you shelter, food, respect, and truth. Now we ask you for your answer. Will you take your place among us, or will you turn away?" Daniel's heart pounded. Every eye in the room pressed against him, some filled with hope, some with doubt. He opened his mouth, but no words came. He wanted to scream. No, but the memory of the children's laughter in the gardens, the flower placed in his hand, Sarai's trembling voice, stopped him. He wanted to say yes, but the thought of losing his freedom made his throat tighten like a rope. The elder studied him carefully. "You stand between two paths, human. One path gives us life, the other gives us death. Which will you choose?" Daniel's mind screamed in chaos. He saw the archives, the history carved in stone. He saw the future, uncertain and heavy, and he saw himself, a wanderer who had never belonged anywhere, suddenly asked to belong everywhere. The hall grew colder as silence stretched. Finally, Daniel whispered, I don't know." Gasps spread through the crowd, some murmuring in despair, others clinging to hope. The elder did not scold him, only nodded. "Then you must walk among us longer, until you do." The villagers bowed and slowly dispersed, leaving Daniel alone in the glowing hall. He sank to his knees, his breath shaking. For the first time in years, he felt small, powerless, trapped in a story far greater than himself. Later, as he walked back through the village, Sarai joined him quietly. She said nothing at first, only walked beside him under the twin moons. Finally she whispered, "You are not alone, Daniel. Even if you feel trapped, I will walk with you." Her words were simple, but they pierced through his storm of thoughts. Maybe she was part of the cage. Maybe she was part of the key. He could not decide, not yet. But one thing was certain, his choice would decide not just his future, but theirs. And as the moons cast silver light across the village, Daniel realized he was no longer just a drifter. He was a man standing at the center of two worlds, forced to choose which one he would save. Days passed, and Daniel lived in the alien village as though caught in a dream he could not wake from. Every morning the villagers greeted him with smiles, and every evening they sang songs of hope. Children laughed when he walked by, women bowed their heads, men offered him food and respect, yet under every smile was the same unspoken plea. "Choose us, save us." Daniel's heart grew heavier with each passing day. He could no longer pretend he did not understand, no longer pretend he was blind. The archives had shown him the truth. Sarai had shown him their hearts, and the elder had shown him their desperation. But still, his own heart clung to freedom, to choice, to the life of a wanderer who belonged to no one. One evening, the elder called him again to the great hall. This time the chamber was filled with more villagers than ever before, their faces glowing in the crystal light. It felt like judgment, like a trial. The elder raised his voice, firm and calm. "Human Daniel, the time for waiting is over today. You decide, will you walk with us into the future, or will you turn away and let us fade?" The hall fell silent, all eyes on him. Daniel's throat tightened, his chest burning with conflict. He looked at the children, their small faces bright with hope. He looked at the men and women, their shoulders tense with fear. And then he looked at Sarai, standing near the front, her silver hair catching the light, her eyes wide with both fear and trust. He closed his eyes, the storm inside him raging. Part of him wanted to shout no, to break free of the invisible chains, to find a way out of the valley and vanish into the stars. But another part of him whispered that walking away would mean condemning an entire people to silence. The weight of that choice pressed on his shoulders like stone. At last, Daniel spoke, his voice rough but steady. "I will not be your tool. I will not be forced. But if I choose to help, it will be on my terms, not yours." Gasps echoed through the hall, the villagers shifting nervously. The elder's eyes narrowed. "Explain yourself, human." Daniel stepped forward, his fists clenched, his voice rising. You want me to give you children, to save your species, fine. But I will not do it as a prisoner. I will not do it as property. If I stay as an equal. Not a servant, not a breeding animal. I stay as family, with respect, with freedom. Otherwise I walk away. The hall shook with murmurs, some villagers crying out in fear, others whispering angrily. But Sarai's voice cut through the noise, strong and clear. He speaks truth, elder. If we want his heart, not just his body, then we must give him honor, not chains. Silence fell again, heavy and sharp. The elder studied Daniel for a long time, his glowing eyes unreadable. Finally, he nodded slowly, his voice carrying weight. Then so it shall be, human, not as tool. Not as prisoner, but as kin. You will walk among us as equal, and your choice will be remembered as the choice of humanity. The crowd erupted in soft cries, some in relief, some in wonder. Daniel's chest loosened, though the storm inside did not fade completely. He had not surrendered, but he had not turned away either. He had carved a path between their world and his own. That night, the village celebrated. Fires burned bright, songs filled the valley. Daniel sat among them, still uneasy, but for the first time not alone. Children climbed onto his lap, laughing, offering him flowers. The villagers raised cups to him, calling him brother, calling him protector, and beside him, Sarai sat quietly, her eyes shining with gratitude. Later, when the fire dimmed and the music faded, Daniel looked up at the twin moons. His heart was still heavy, but he felt something new stirring inside him. The longing, fragile and uncertain, but real. He had been a wanderer, a drifter with no home. And now somehow he had become the guardian of a people. The elder's words echoed in his mind, not as tool, but as kin. It was not the destiny they had written for him, but the destiny he had chosen. And maybe, just maybe, that was what made it truly human. As dawn touched the valley with silver light, whispers spread among the villagers. They spoke of the human who came to them as a stranger, who faced fear and choice, and who stood tall not as master or servant, but as equal. And they whispered one line again and again. One human changed the fate of an entire species. Daniel breathed deeply, feeling the weight of those words. The story was not over, the path ahead uncertain, but for the first time, he was not afraid to walk it.